What's up, everyone? CountBlagorath here with an album review, this time of the 2012 self-release of Maps of War by Maps of War. If you're not familiar with these guys, they are a five-piece metal band hailing from Watertown, New York, and they play a style of melodic death metal mixed with thrash metal here and there. Definitely has some metalcore influence here and there, mostly in the riffing department, where it really reminds me almost of Unearth's riffing. And it's just a very good blend that has something really for everyone to enjoy. There's some death metal, as I said, with a melodic death metal influence. Just some very good stuff. When I first heard of these guys, it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and I actually never got a chance to see them live until recently when my band played with them, and I was very impressed by how progressive their song structures are and just how well the riffs work in context of everything else that's going on in the song, and just how every instrument is doing its own thing, but it doesn't deviate to the point where it makes it unlistenable or annoying. This is an album that has a lot of depth to it, and I have to say this is a great thing about this album is, especially if you've seen these guys live, you know they put on a great show. Their frontman is just full of energy. He's everywhere. He's got a great voice, and he really just knows how to really get the crowd into the band. And they really capture that sort of very energetic, very powerful feel that they bring forth live. And that is something that is very, very good and really kind of hard to find with a lot of bands nowadays, is really capturing that live energy and spirit into a studio recording, and that's what they've done. The music contained on this album is probably some of the best unsigned metal, just straight pure metal I have heard in a long time. And I have to say, this is probably one of the best, not only independent releases I've heard this year, but easily the best local release I've heard in a long, long time. These guys really know their stuff when it comes to songwriting and just their instruments in general, and that is something very good to hear for a change. They're not reliant on cliches. They're not really relying on one gimmick too much. It's just they do what they think sounds good, and that really shows in the music. Guitar-wise, it's got a very, very good tone. It's got some bottom end to it, but it has very, very crystal clear, extremely, extremely clean sounding lead work. And in my opinion, lead guitar shouldn't sound dirty. I think it needs to have a good cleanliness to it. But the regular, more distorted rhythm guitar has kind of a dirty sound to it, but not dirty to the point where it's unlistenable like some bands do. They're not focused so much on being heavy or even really focused on showing off their skill like some bands are. They're more concerned about writing a good song, and whatever comes out, and it happens to come out, which typically is a very catchy, melodic, and very almost entrancing experience with the riff work. The riffs really just carry all over the place, and they almost hypnotize you with how perfect they flow. One of my favorite things about the riffs is actually how they don't really repeat themselves. Like, the same riff is played, but it doesn't feel like the same riff because there's so many notes contained in each riff. And that's something I really like to hear. And I just love how it's mixed in the mix. It just sounds extremely good. And it's an album that really needs to be turned up loud, and you will get the full experience of it. I wouldn't recommend listening to it quiet, although it does sound good quiet. This is an album that needs to be loud. And with this stereo, it sounds amazing loud. Now, for bass, it really goes with the guitar somewhat, and it sounds like it deviates a little bit. It has a fantastic tone. I love the bass sound itself. Sonically, it matches with the guitar, but it doesn't sound, how should I put it, A lot of bassists try to make their bass sound like a guitar, as weird as that sounds, and I've heard that so many times and I'm sick of it. This really keeps the natural tone of the bass and really keeps the natural bass element that I love to hear in it, and it has that. And when it goes with the riffs, it just adds a little bit of bottom end to what would kind of be considered a more mid-range guitar tone, which is what they're kind of going for, if you ask me. That's what it sounds like, at least. But it really adds to what the riffs are doing. It complements it perfectly, and it's something that just sounds really, really good. Drum-wise, I love the drum work. It's nothing that is extremely, how should I put it? There's not a lot of blasting going on. There's not really a lot of like straight pure double bass work. It's more or less really cool and interesting patterns that go along with the guitar riff. And as I said, since the notes are pretty much scattered everywhere within the riffs, and I don't mean that in a technical way also, I just want to put that out there. So if you go and check this out expecting something extremely like technical death metal, it's not like that. It's just a very unique sound that kind of reminds me of Lamb of God in a way with the riffing, now that I think about it. But the drums kind of follow in a same pattern. The kick drums really stick with the guitar riff, and the snare and all the cymbal work really just matches up with everything else going on perfectly. And it's mixed, once again, absolutely perfectly. I love the drum sound on this album. The kicks sound very good. There's a lot of punch to them, but you can still hear them. And it's a weird balance because a lot of drummers, when they record, typically the kick drum either sounds way too clicky or so punchy that it, not even punchy, but I guess you could say punchy, where it just sounds very shallow. This sounds anything but shallow. It just sounds very, very good. Just some great drum beats and just some stuff that is very catchy. And vocal-wise, the vocalist is awesome. And there's one thing that annoys me about a lot of bands in my area, and it seems to be a trend, which is layering your voice to the point where it doesn't even really sound good. It just sounds like you're trying too hard to make it sound good. And with this, there's some layering here and there, but it's done in spots where it just makes the vocals punch you in the face even harder than they already are. And it just makes for a better sound. It's not overused, it's done right. And vocally, they're more of a mid-range kind of shout sort of thing, but it sounds extremely good. And I love how you can understand everything he's saying, and that is a good thing because the lyrics are extremely well written. Song flow, all the songs just flow extremely well. They kind of flow in the same pattern, which can kind of make the songs not really stand out that much from each other, but with that said, they are very well written and they do sound good. This is an album I recommend really for anybody who's a fan of some modern metal, that loves melodic death metal, maybe that digs thrash. If you are interested in metalcore without the breakdowns, that more melodic death metal style, definitely look into this. This is a great album. This is available on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify. You can listen to this, so if you want to check it out, you can get it there. You can buy the CD of it on their Big Cartel, which I recommend because this artwork is awesome. Everything about this CD is just great. It's manufactured so well. And I love the layout. Everything just looks great. You get all the lyrics, which is something a lot of local bands don't do, is include their lyrics, which is kind of odd. And you get some really good artwork. I love the disc. It's worth the $10 that it is on their Big Cartel. Then I don't know how much shipping is. It probably depends on your location. But definitely buy this. I highly recommend it. I'm going to give this a very solid 8.5 out of 10. This is a debut that shows a lot of promise for this band. And I highly recommend all of you check this out. So that's my review, 8.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And as always, keep it metal.